today's show, we'll be talking about dreams. And before we get to bed, we always like a little something warm and comforting to help us sleep and maybe to help us dream. So make sure you stay tuned for later in the show when I show you my I can't believe it's vegan, incredible hot chocolate recipe. But first, in my world, I get to explore all sorts of mysteries, many of which are right on the fringes of what we experience in our everyday lives. Some people might even think astrology itself fits into that category. But one of the greatest mysteries of all is as common as daylight and is one that we all experience every single day, and that is the mystery of dreams. Now, I know that some are thinking, I don't dream, I wish I did. But in fact, we all dream every night, multiple times, and it's just a question of remembering our dreams. That's the issue. So in today's episode, I'm going to talk about how to remember your dreams. And I promise you, you will, if you follow the method I give you, within a couple of weeks, you'll be collecting all sorts of dreams that you have remembered, even if you've never remembered a dream before. And then in a few weeks' time, we'll do another show on how to interpret your dreams now that you've got a big collection. And won't that be interesting? But for now, let's just for a moment think about what dreams are. Because the truth is, nobody really knows. There are all sorts of interesting theories, many of which do sound plausible, from the simple, it's your brain processing all the stuff that happened that day, to thoughts, fears, and anxieties, to psychic experiences, predictive experiences, spiritual experiences, all sorts of variations of this other world that we seem to occupy. I mean, after all, when you're sleeping and dreaming, as far as you know, that dream world is the world. You're not usually thinking, there's me somewhere lying in a bed having this dream. That dream seems real to you. There are dreams when we are aware that we are dreaming, and some of the techniques I'm going to teach you now will help you recall those dreams where you are aware. And in the later episode, in a few weeks' time, we'll see how you can actually make use of that awareness in your dream. In fact, even how to induce that kind of awareness in a dream. But for now, we need to concentrate on the subject of remembering them. One of the questions that we might ask is, why do we forget them? I mean, some people think that since we forget them, they can't be very important. I'd like to rather say that since we have them, obviously, they must be important. They must mean something. They must be something. Otherwise, why are they there? So the main reason we don't remember them is usually a cultural reason. Many people come from cultures where dreams are not especially spoken about or explained. And in fact, certainly I grew up, like many people, being told every time I had a nightmare, oh, don't worry, it's only a dream. There, forget about it, it's only a dream. So with best intentions, no doubt, the parents' efforts to calm the crying child ended up erasing the importance of dreams. It's not always true. In those cultures where dreams are important, they are easily remembered. In fact, in most indigenous African cultures, dreams are very important and are therefore easily remembered and discussed. As a Sangoma, I deal with people's dreams a lot. African spirituality has a lot to do with dreams. The path of the training Sangoma is guided by dreams. The path of the practicing Sangoma is guided by dreams. And dreams provide access whereby Sangoma might access the world of the ancestors and gain important information. For those reasons, even ordinary people dreaming often relate their dreams in the morning and talk about them to each other. And it gives the dream some kind of importance and makes it easy to remember. It's one of the tricks of how to remember your dreams. The next thing to think about for a moment is, why would we want to remember our dreams? Well, we are going to discuss in the future, when we interpret dreams, all sorts of reasons that we could make use of that dream. But even if there is predictive information, or if there is just information about what's going on inside your head, all of that is going to turn out to be useful information. therapists of various kinds make use of dream information because, at the very least, it provides access to the unconscious self or the not everyday conscious self that there is very little way of accessing. And at least access to that aspect of the self has a good potential to provide us with insight into the rest of ourselves. So I'm going to tell you 12 steps to remember your dreams. But before you can take any of those steps, you need somewhere to record those dreams. And a good old-fashioned dream journal is the best way to do that. Now, you could be doing it on your phone or on your tablet or something like that. It's better to actually use a pen and paper for a whole variety of reasons. One of the most important is that studies have demonstrated that writing with a pen accesses the memory areas of the brain, whereas typing does not. So a dream journal is a blank book that you use only for dreams. You can even get a pen that you use only for dreams. The only for dreams part of it is very important because you're sending a message to yourself. That is a special book that has a special function, and you're telling yourself dreams are important, because that's one of the most important things we need to do, is understand that dreams are important. In fact, that's going to be our first step. So in that dream journal, we're going to write whatever we can remember of our dreams. The first step, step number 1 of 12, is to set the intention to remember the dream. You need to tell yourself and tell your unconscious self, I am going to remember my dreams tonight, easily and comfortably. You can also say something like, I will dream tonight and I will easily remember my dreams in the morning. You can also use a statement like, I will remember my dreams so that I can write them down in the morning. And you're clearly stating you have the intention to write them down. There's a lot about our unconscious self that responds to those kind of intentions, because it's easier to know what you're going to do than to not know what you're going to do. So it's as simple as telling yourself. And then keeping the pen and paper and journal next to the bed is step number 2. Have your tools ready. So you have special tools, pen and paper, that are only used for that purpose. The third step in making the dream memorable is to wake up as slowly as you possibly can. That means not using an alarm clock and not leaping out of bed the moment that you're awake or doing anything else. As far as possible, wake naturally, and as soon as you realize you're awake, don't move. Just lie there as gently and as slowly waking as possible, and try not move or change your position from where you were while you were sleeping. The fourth step is to find a quiet space to record your dream. Now, hopefully that quiet space is in your bedroom where you just woke up. But if absolutely necessary, and you've got kids running around the minute you wake up or something like that, you need to develop a routine of first thing in the morning, you pop into the loo or into the little room next door or wherever you have a space where your dream journal is waiting for you. It will only work if you somewhat ritualize that by having the dream journal waiting there so that you know there's this place I go. But ideally, it's exactly where you're waking up that you are going to record the dream. So quiet is the most important thing. It's also because the fifth step is do not hesitate, record now. That is so important. You might think, oh, I'll easily remember this. I'll just quickly write it down after I fed the cat or just check that the kids are awake. You can't remember dreams like this. It has to actually be the very first thing that you do. So record it the very moment that you wake up. And step number 6 is at least just record the very first things you remember. So that means at first, just write down a few words. The easiest thing to do at first is to think of a title for the dream and then write down a brief summary. Thinking of a title forces you to engage and think about what was the dream about. And just write a few words. At first, don't try and write down the whole dream. Just write down a summary, a few details, and some words that will trigger the memory. So if you just wrote down elephant, car, running along the road, and shopping mall, it will help you then a few minutes later, as you start writing down more of the dream, that you've hooked onto some details. And if you'd written a title like The Elephant in the Shopping Mall, you're definitely going to start remembering, and in fact probably remember the dream even after you've written it down. Titles are also important because they help you find the dream later on. It's going to be a while of collecting dreams before you're really in a proper position to interpret them. And also, many dreams come true or play out in our lives, not necessarily as a prediction. They might just have been something about understanding ourselves that gradually emerges in the world, and we realize the dream was guiding us. So we need to be able to refer back to the dream. And it's really difficult when you've got a book full of dreams to think, where was that dream and when was that dream? So if you've given the dream a title and you write it at the top, as you write the title of the dream at the top, you go to the back page of the book and you write down a list of titles. I don't think you can see it there, but you literally create an index. So you write the title, you write what page of your book it's on, and so that you'll always be able to go back, because you'll easily remember the elephant in the shopping mall. Or even if you don't, when you're thinking, what was that dream again? And you go through, you see the elephant in the shopping mall, you realize that was the dream I was trying to remember. So the title is all important. One of the secrets about a dream journal. Dream has a title indexed in the back, and then next step is you're going to write down the rest of the dream. But in order to do step number 7, writing down the rest of the dream, you need to adjust your position slightly and very gently move around to try and find the position you were in while you were sleeping, while you were actually having that dream. It's a powerful trigger when the body finds itself in the same position it was, that the memory comes back, because memory has a very strong physical component as well. We remember things more easily when three-dimensional space is involved than just when words or ideas are involved. So create the physicality of it by adjusting yourself. If you know what position you sleep in, you can start off slowly moving into that position and seeing if that helps. Otherwise, just a little bit of gentle movement, and while you're thinking about those first ideas that you've written down, and you'll find that something returns to you that way. Then step number 8 is write down everything that you can think of. It goes along with step number 9 that says don't attempt to interpret anything that you're writing down. Now, it sounds obvious, but amazingly, that's not how we do things. We tend to summarize as we go along and decide what's important and what isn't. So we've tried to avoid that with our previous step, writing a brief summary. And so we've done that. Now we're getting into the detail of trying to write down every single detail you can remember without commentary and without holding it back. So if it pops into your mind, even if it's something obvious, the easiest said than done part for many of us is that that's all very well, but I'm not remembering very much. Well, even if you are remembering very much, but certainly if you're not, write down what you feel. Write down any emotion you might be feeling, even if there's no reason. Anything that is a state of physical or emotional or mental awareness at the moment of waking is probably going to trigger a dream. But it's related to step number 11, which says, well, write down something. It's almost like it doesn't matter what it is, but write down something. In the beginning, you may only remember the feeling or that very vague something. You can start off, if you don't remember anything at all, by writing the sentence, I don't remember very much, or something that just gets your pen flowing. If it's still not working, then write down what you thought about when you woke up. You definitely have got thoughts going on in your head. Write down what you thought about, and you're on a step number 11, which says write down something. And that little commitment makes all the difference in the world. When you write down the dream, you are telling yourself the dream is important enough for me to write down. It's important enough for me to take this time to write something down. So write down something, which leads us to step number 12 that says, honor the dream by doing something in response. So if it was a dream that was about literally doing something, then do that thing. If not, just share the dream or do something that shows you for yourself, this dream was important to me. It can turn out to be really useful because of whatever messages the dream might have. So I remember a situation where I was once looking for a particular herbal medicine. As a Sangoma, I'm also a qualified herbalist. And I had almost forgotten about that. But then I had this dream that I went to a store and bought some peanut oil. And what would I do with peanut oil? But I decided to honor the dream, and I went down to the store where I knew there was peanut oil, and I checked and I could see it on the shelf. So I went up to the counter and I said, I'd like some peanut oil. And the lady turned around and started looking around. So I started looking, and I knew what the bottle looked like. So I said, there it is over there. And I pointed at the peanut oil. And directing my attention to the peanut oil made me see that right next to it was the bottle of medicine that I had been searching for and basically had forgotten about for ages. So even if that was just my unconscious self who'd seen it there before and was telling me, just go down to that store, well, I ended up with the bottle of medicine that I needed, and I could help someone with that. So honor the dream, respond to the dream, and it's amazing how quickly you start remembering your dream. I'll tell you that if you follow these 12 steps that I've given you, you will, within a couple of weeks, be remembering so many dreams that you're going to have to start waking up half an hour early. So the important thing is that if you're writing the summary and if you're writing the titles at the end, you'll always be able to keep control of it and not leave out important information. The amazing thing about writing down dreams is that you begin to remember them without writing them down, and you remember dreams you've written about years ago, and they start enriching your life in all sorts of interesting ways. So give that a start, go through the 12 steps, go off and buy that dream journal today. I promise you it's going to be worth it, because in the weeks to come, I'm going to show you magic you can do with your dreams once, of course, that you've remembered them. The rich treasury of information and experience they can give you. So before you go to sleep, remember that hot chocolate recipe I promised to show you. Watch this. My favorite thing about winter, apart from all the rain in Cape Town, is hot chocolate. And my memory of hot chocolate, like many people, comes from Mom making cocoa on the stove when I was a kid. And for people today, that just seems to be way too much work. So what happens when you walk into a store today, you get all these instant hot chocolates that are bottles of powder that you add to hot water, or these days even sachets of powder that you add to hot water, all little things that you put in a coffee machine, and all comes out magically hot chocolate. If you read the labels of those things, firstly, there's a small amount of cocoa with a whole bunch of additional chemicals and flavorings, chocolate flavoring, which doesn't clearly come from the cocoa, plus chemicals we've never heard of, plus milk powder. And of course, for vegans who want to have hot chocolate, that's going to be a bit of a problem as well. But I was always struck by the high cost of those powders. And I kept on thinking, it tastes like powder. Isn't there a better way to do that? I've tried them all, as I'm sure you have. Well, I thought of a better way to do this. Now, some of you have thought of this yourself, and I'm going to think I'm completely wasting your time and energy telling you this, in which case rush off and make the hot chocolate. It's all good. But for those of you, there might just be a few who don't know about this. This will change everything. So here is how to make vegan hot chocolate in an instant that tastes way better than any powdered hot chocolate, is very authentic, and is quite addictive. So what you need for this, well, as a vegan, you can use your favorite milk. Mine is almond milk. If you're not a vegan, you can use cow's milk. It's going to work just as well. Almond milk works especially well for chocolatey things. It doesn't have much of a taste of its own. Slightly nutty, slightly sweet taste. This is a sweetened almond milk, not always easy to get unsweetened. So it doesn't have very much sugar in it, but the sweetened milk is going to mean you don't need to add any sugar. The other thing you need, of course, a good quality dark chocolate. You can use any chocolate you like, doesn't even have to be dark chocolate. You could use a flavored chocolate for a bit of flavor in your hot chocolate, but good quality is best because the cheaper brands, most of the local brands tend to have also weird things in them, most especially hydrogenated vegetable fat or palm fat, neither of which I really want to eat. So one of these slightly more expensive imported is only cocoa and cocoa mass, a bit of sugar and a bit of vanilla. So first thing to do, you need about 30 grams of chocolate. That's 3 squares of this imported brand. You can use about 2 rows of a regular brand, 20 to 30 grams, depending on what suits you. Just chop it up to make your life a little bit easier, although it even works if you don't chop it up, amazingly. Chop up your chocolate, and you're going to put the chocolate into your mug that you're going to have hot chocolate in. So it's going to be just as instant as anything you can get out of that powder. Then take your milk and add it. Now you don't want a full mug, it's too much. You just need 2/3 or something like that, otherwise it's too rich. Next step, the microwave. Now I know not everyone likes microwaves. I do, not superstitious about them, more worried about the microwaves on my phone. And about 1.5 minutes, depending on whether the milk came out of the fridge or not and how strong your microwave is, give it a whirl. Take it out, your milk will be nice and hot. Give it a stir. Turns into something amazing. Delicious. Tastes like expensive chefy hot chocolate. And it's instant, it's cheaper than artificial powders, and as long as you're using dark chocolate and vegan milk, it's vegan friendly. Other than that, any chocolate will do to your taste. Enjoy. I'm telling you, I can't believe no one thought of that themselves, but I asked a lot of people before I made this show, and everyone was completely amazed that it's that easy, so do give it a try. Time for one of your personal questions, and Terry has written to me saying, we need to move out of the house that we're in and find another house within the next couple of months. We've found a house that is much bigger and much more expensive than the rental we were looking for, but I could perhaps earn money by using some of the extra space to teach art. Should I go ahead and rent the more expensive house? Well, Terry, looking at your chart and looking at your question, it's clear to see that this is quite a good idea, but knowing what your question is about and the earning of the extra income, I looked a little bit further, and the chart says, at first this is going to be a good solution, but it's going to be really difficult to maintain that as a solution. I don't know whether you have an existing practice as an art teacher. If you do, that would certainly help. But looking at this chart, I'd also think, well, try and do something to first stabilize that higher income that you need. Establish the art school or get your first group of students or something like that. Because the chart does warn that for a while, it might actually be quite challenging. However, on the whole, it looks like a good house and a great opportunity for you to do something with that, and also perhaps to further your career as an artist and an art teacher. But as I say, do know that it's not a simple solution to the problem. So in the early stages, also try and find other ways of securing more income or making yourself more stable in that way. Remember, if you have a personal question of something that's unfolding as we speak and something quite specific, don't just say, tell me what my future is. Ask me about something really specific in your life. You can email it to this address or visit my website where you can send personal questions, make appointments to see me, find other information as well. Remember to look out in a couple of weeks for the show on interpreting your dreams. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for this show. Just search for my name on YouTube. Subscribe there, ask for notifications, and you'll always know exactly what's going on. Don't forget, Rod's World can be found at 12 noon every Friday on YouTube. Then that same evening, 7:30 p.m. on Cape Town Television, and repeating Sundays at 1:30 p.m. So I'll see you here next week.